Hey y'all, I'm Ellen. We've been super inspired by our journeys of self-healing and discovery.
And I'm Sam, and we want to share our experiences with you to help you get curious about yourself, reconnect, and get intentional about your life so you know what makes you happy.
Welcome to Woo New, the podcast. I am really excited today to be talking to Shengyin Gui, who is my partner for this mystery mentorship program that I've been a part of with Mimi Young of Ceremony. I keep on wanting to say Shop Ceremony because that's their website, but we had interviewed her. We had interviewed her maybe like a month or two ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. This whole quarantine time has kind of made time feel really, really strange. But it was a fascinating conversation where we started getting into dream interpretation. And it was actually through that conversation that I learned about this mystery mentorship. And I can't even tell you, it wasn't even anything really fully conscious. I didn't sit and think about it for a really long time, but I just felt like something pulling me to join the mentorship program. And so I was really just lucky, I feel like, to be paired up with Shengyin for our peer practicum, where we had to do a series of readings and journeys for each other. But I just want to welcome you, Shengyin, to Woo New, and thank you so much for just having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much, Ellen, for having me. I am humbled and beyond excited to be here.
Yay. So I know that as we were talking, you wanted to also share some acknowledgements before we began.
Yes, please. So to all the audiences, my name is Shengyin and my pronouns are she and her. And please allow me to just spend a minute and take up some space to acknowledge the lands, the people before us, and the seen and unseen forces that are with us. I am originally from Shanghai, China, and I'm currently residing in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I am on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I would also like to acknowledge the ancient and traditional lands of China where my ancestors walked on and lived in generations after generations. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the tremendous support I received from various programs and communities that I'm a part of, be it spiritual or non-spiritual. And in relation to shamanic healing arts, I would like to thank my mentor, Mimi, and her mystery mentorship program and the community, my other teacher, Jessica, and my beloved shamanic journeying group, Lucille, Michelle, Christine. I would also thank my ancestors and the healing and helpful spirit allies that have brought us together today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We haven't ever started an episode like that, and I just already felt like my energy kind of settled in as you were giving acknowledgement, and I was kind of doing so on my end too, to all the Indigenous peoples in LA, or that used to be in this territory. So thank you for that. I kind of want to begin by maybe talking a little bit about what the whole mystery mentorship program is, and really what we're learning through this mentorship program, and just maybe even what shamanic healing is in our own words and how we see that practice. So I'd love to hear from you, just, in your own words, like what is this mystery mentorship program and what drew you to it?
If I may, probably going back to the beginning, sort of what led me to shamanic healing arts. And I think that way, through telling my story and my experience, perhaps I can explain a little bit more clearly about my current relationship with the mystery mentorship program. So I think it was probably in 2018 December. I've experienced this burnout just from my corporate job. Um, and really, like, I looked okay and normal on the outside, but inside, I was just probably at the lowest point of my life where I'm just experiencing a losing of purpose and drive and passion and even focus. So that drove me to pursuing meditation. I went to meditation classes after work initially just to have a good sleep there. um, and later on, I was also introduced to Reiki practices. So I started incorporating both meditation and Reiki in my regular day to day kind of routine. And it's through that practice I start to be more aware of what triggers are and how triggers show up in my body. And
Hmm.
oftentimes I would experience this surge of emotions and just thoughts I don't quite know how to process. It's either have been suppressed for a really long time or it's just starting to showing signs for me to go deeper. And so I also started just paying attention to my parents and my family members and their behaviors, how they deal with triggers. And I can often find some common themes and patterns. And at that time, the words generational trauma are quite new to me. I don't quite relate to the word trauma because I don't ever think I'm really privileged that I don't feel like I have gone through many traumatic events in my life growing up. But I wondered, is it possible that I'm carrying generational trauma? And so I think the seed sort of planted at that time. And fast forward a year later, it was probably September 2019, I came across Mimi's website and Instagram page. So I was browsing on her website with her offerings, and I was really interested in particularly the remote shamanic journey readings that she offers.
Hmm.
And so I reach out to her without, again, like you said, it's not really a conscious decision. I just feel really called to it. I'm interested to learning more about it. I just thought, let's book a session and see how that experience resonates.
I was curious, how had you done any other type of healing modality before that, or was this kind of almost the first thing that really drew you in?
I think aside from Reiki, which I was still in the exploration stage as well, but I just felt a really strong pull reaching out to Mimi and just give the reading a go. So it was really just like an impulse, and I just reached out to her right away. I wrote this email without knowing what to expect. Um, so we had our first session in October 2019. And from October 2019 to this year, April, we have done a total of 8 sessions together.
Wow.
And so when she posted about her going to have a mentorship program in April, it was just, I have to do it. There's no question I would not sign up and do it and be committed to this program. And I think to just add a little bit context of what these individual shamanic journey readings meant for me and what we kind of worked through is, I think every session, like, I can talk about it, for days, and that's how drawn I am to them. And each session is so rich in stories, and it's always awe-inspiring. It's jaw-dropping. I tend to, when I read the narrative, I tend to experience this emotional roller coaster. And it's amazing. So things that we worked through are things that we discover, like the particular generational wounds that are associated with my mom's line as well as my dad's line. and we explore sort of what are the common theme, what are the overarching themes that are there, and we also look at how they branch out. And some of the stories that was shown can be dated back to 1700, 1800s, even further back.
Wow.
And it's almost like I get to see these historic exhibits of pain, grief, um, prejudice, hatred, and I get to see in my own eyes how my ancestors have grappled with issues of identity and how they have internalized so much of the injustices that have happened to them, whether it's because of the political situation, or it's because other people's grief, hunger, greed, all that. And I see how they have to really diminish their soul in order to protect the little that they have. And they really have to play small to to the point they have to sacrifice their health, their well-being, and give up on their destiny. And these things, I really, as I even say that now, it's piercing through my heart. And a lot of the injustices, these things of hatred, greed, prejudice, we are still very much experiencing now. It doesn't matter how technology have advanced. We as humans, we haven't really learned the lessons.
Yeah.
And so it's through all these readings, it really expanded my understanding of humanity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very empowering because aside from learning all of that, we have also explored how does these generational traumas show up in me, in my daily life? And how can I step up and initiate healing for myself, for the collective, as well as for my ancestors? So we've also explored very practical tools and ways that will allow me to step into my power more by understanding how these triggers show up in me. And by doing more inner work. And, I hope that I can bring healing to myself, to the community, to the collective, and to my ancestors. And so that's why every single reading, every single session, it's filled with, very heavy emotions, but at the same time, commitment, love, and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, after all these sessions, I start to develop, I understand sort of the basics and a little bit framework about what healing would look like to me in my lifetime. That's why it's only natural for me to sign up for the mentorship program, because not only we're going to learn about how to journey, but also other tools, other ways to pay reverence to our ancestors, our spirits, our higher self. Things like doing outer work, working with plant medicines, and working with the Mother Peace Deck and ancestral foods. These are very practical ways that we can wield magic into our practical life. So it's just I'm so honored to be in this program and with peers like yourself. We are committed to do this work. And because I think healing it's not just a grand word, or spiritual awakening is not just a word. It's hard work, it's dedication, it's discipline.
Yeah, I loved everything you just shared. And just even listening to the way you were speaking about uncovering these truths about your past, your generational lines, and the generational trauma that you carry in your DNA because of, you know, your family lines. I think, and I haven't actually really sat down and very consciously spent much time thinking about what exactly it was about the mentorship program that drew me in. But as I'm listening to you talk, it's actually dawning on me. I've been finding that in my own healing journey, and I got Reiki 2 certified before this mentorship program. I also got certified as a breathwork guide, and the breathwork piece has been the I think the main modality that has really called to me. And I think in the that podcast interview that we did with Mimi a few months ago, it was really my first opportunity to understand what shamanism is directly from somebody who practices, and that has made it part of her life's work. And I think the subconscious piece in me or the unconscious piece in me that got drawn to it, I kind of connected it to this disconnection to nature that I've been feeling through the past, 2 or 3 years, and slowly becoming more and more conscious of and recognizing my place within this whole universe with among the seen and the unseen energies and beings that surround us. And but I think really the mentorship program has actually opened up for me. I actually think it's my dad and my nai that that pulled me into this mentorship program. Like they have all these other healing modalities, and it is as we I didn't realize how much of this was going to be focused on ancestral uh, connection and healing ancestral trauma. And so I went into it kind of blind, I guess, but like everything that you feel that pull from or that subconscious pull, I always feel like it's there for a reason. And, there's something or someone guiding you or helping you to kind of, guide you into these things, very much like you probably felt when you first encountered Mimi's website and saw and felt this pull to get a shamanic journey reading. And I really now fully believe that it is my father and my particularly his mother that have been guiding me. And there have been other instances in my past that have just kind of very mystical experiences, I would say, that have given me clues to the fact that they have been sort of helping me um, through this healing process together,
Mm-hmm.
and that they've been working on behalf of my whole family line to heal the family line. But I'm actually putting two and two together right now, where I feel like it really is the two of them, particularly, that has guided me into this mentorship program, so that I can have a deeper connection to them through these journeys
Mm-hmm.
and through,
Mm-hmm.
knowing people like you who also are so drawn to this work. And you're right, healing it's I hate to call it a lifestyle but it is a way of life. I'm finding it's not just an action to get to a certain point or a goal to hit, to feel better. It really is how you choose to live the rest of your life in this lifetime with consciousness, and I think learning the shamanic arts has really helped to really expand my consciousness around that.
Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful to hear. Thank you, Ellen. I'm so honored again, and I think I really felt that it's a lot of times it's just the unseen forces that have really brought us together. brought us to the right
Mm-hmm.
people, the communities, the opportunities that we are unconsciously looking for. And for me, I'm at this stage of receiving and just acceptance and finding the nurture communities, um, that I can be my authentic self, that I can also hold space for others in the community to be their authentic self. And I
Yes.
think, doesn't matter where we go, whether it's through shamanic practices or other modalities. Um, this is sort of my intention of going into life and each experience is to, through learning, create more space for the unseen. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean spirits, but the unseen meaning, when we interact with people in daily lives, we really don't see the full picture.
Yes.
And
Totally.
especially when it comes to relationships, just just as like what my ancestors did, when I think about how much we have to shrink ourselves to play small, to maintain certain relationship, to attain certain outcomes. And a lot of situations, we don't have our voices. We were not able to being heard and seen. And I think that's part of the unseen as well, is to really develop empathy, through learning about the civilizations that have passed our ancestor story. Um, yeah, and really use that knowledge, um, almost like, a moral compass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's through, for me, I feel that it's through that kind of intention where I can set the stage for myself to I guess be wise. Learn
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
wise, because I'm coming from my own heart space.
Hmm. What have you
Mm.
found to be the most challenging so far of this mystery mentorship? And just for everyone who's listening, we have just completed the first module of, I believe, 5 modules. It was the Earth module. And so we started, I think, in May, and now it's the middle to end of August. So we've been in it for 3 or 4 months now. But yeah, I'm curious, what have you found to be the most challenging for yourself?
I think particularly when I first started working the Mother Peace stack, it was challenging for me compared to journeying. And
Interesting.
I think it's because of, one, similar to your story, there's this disconnection of nature
Hmm.
and growing up. And also, I have the hardest time to process what female sexuality is for me. I
Mm-hmm.
actually don't know how comfortable I feel with my body. How do
Hmm.
I feel safe in my body? Because I've never learned, like growing up, you hear a lot of things that your parents or relatives say, oh, girls don't do that because it's dangerous, it's not safe. um, and girls, you need to attend to more family, and everything you pursue should be stable. But when you're
Hmm.
going into school and out in the society, you are just expect to perform and compete, just like you know everyone else. Everyone is on the same boat. So it's
Right.
always, especially I'm a Leo sign, and I have always trained to be this go 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 mentality. I always have to take action. I'm always on the way to get to somewhere. and I'm not allowed to rest until I exhaust myself. And so I never understand, what does it mean when people, it comes from a few readings already, like to ask myself to really embrace the feminine gifts, the divine feminine wisdom that are being presented to me. So I think with the Mother Peace deck, there's a lot of goddess culture, there's a lot of earth-based beings in the images. I find it hard to access the wisdom. But I think it's through practice the integration week, I really just let go of sort of the control, I guess. But just be really curious and be really open in receiving even just one word from the cards. And that has been tremendously helpful. So one of the cards that I really love is the Strength card. I think with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the Strength card, you see a lady and a lion. Still, to me, it's a very young energy.
Yeah.
But for the Mother Peace deck, the goddess is sitting on the grass, surrounded by nature and all the animals and the plants and the moon. And she's not at the center of the picture. And in the mentorship, we talk about strength is not coming from dominating. Strength comes from being with all that is present, the seen and unseen. And I think just that shift in how, now I can create a different story about strength. I can approach it differently. It's very profound. It's not something that you can learn in school.
Yeah.
So I am still definitely wanting to practice more readings that will allow me to really connect with the deck more, and how I can relate some of the ancient wisdom to my own practice. And I think not only working with the Mother Peace deck, what also helped me is definitely the outer work. It's not only paying reverence to our ancestors, but also to reunite with forces of nature. Mm-hmm. So I have water offerings, I have fresh flowers, I have rock, I have leaves that I've collected on my walks. I have a feather that fell from the sky. And so whenever I tune into my altar and just saying a little bit prayer and being present in that moment, whether it's a minute or 2 minutes as I light my incense, I'm reunited with that forces of nature. And it's incredibly nurturing and grounding, especially if I do that at the beginning of the day. It's just a very sacred space and time that I have carved out in my daily life. It's just so powerful.
Yeah. I find that that was something that was very new to me, the altar work. And I set up 4 different altars, one for myself that is more around my growth and my and beauty and my connection to the divine goddess energy. And then there's one for my ancestors, one directed at my work, and then finally one that's more about my relationship with my husband and our home life and our bond. And I've been finding that the altar work is so profound for me because, and I'm also realizing that it's like all layers, right? Like you setting up the altar was already one big step for me from not having it to suddenly having this, these
Mm-hmm.
portals of energy essentially in my house, and to become more conscious of the fact that I can connect to these different energies and really just be much more conscious of these areas of my life too. And then what you start doing with the altars. So I've been putting out fresh water every day and flowers on occasion. And I've also made mantou, which was my grandmother's favorite, like steamed buns, steamed Chinese buns. I
Yes.
completely wrecked the first set. The second set turned out good.
It's the intention you put in, Ellen.
Yeah, totally. I had to keep on telling myself that. I'm like, okay, this first set, maybe it's like not good enough to present to her, but it was practice. And then the second set turned out so beautiful. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So that one definitely got presented to her. But, the inclusion of ancestral foods and, as offerings too was really powerful for me too, just to connect with her. And this is a grandmother that I never really felt super, what's the word? Just I didn't ever feel super emotionally connected to her. I think because there was always a little bit of that language barrier, and because I think our culture, there's a lot of reverence for the elderly and for our grandparents, and so there's always sort of this. I would consider it almost like an invisible wall, between
Mm-hmm.
me and my grandparents. It's always like respect, but not like an outward showing of love, because that's just not part of the culture. But I have found that through altar work and through the journeying, I've become much more close with her, and in a whole new way that is just kind of blowing my mind. Um, but I also want to circle back. It's so crazy. I didn't realize that you were a Leo. I'm also a Leo too, and my birthday just passed a couple of weeks ago. And so, when is your birthday?
July 23rd.
July 23rd. Oh, wonderful. Mine was August 4th. And the strength card, I just got a reading from a dear friend. The strength card actually tracks to the Leo season, I believe, if I remember. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of the in numerology. And so I love that you brought that up also, because that card is really, I mean, it's the strength card, but it's really powerful. And I love the way you were speaking about shifting your definition of what strength is. Our backgrounds and the fact that we're Leos, everything you just described about feeling like constantly go, 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 you're probably in your yang energy as much as I am. And that's something that I've been really working on. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily downplaying, but just really trying to connect to the divine feminine and to the yin energy, and to be much more in receiving mode and surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this connection to nature that I'm slowly starting to really kind of expand upon and really look into my connection to Mother Earth and Gaia. um, I've been going to this garden every other day and just spending out time outside, meditating to connect to her. And through that, I'm starting to just almost it's like just almost like baby steps into a pool. But I feel like I'm starting to understand what surrender actually means, or being in the divine feminine energy, and like allowing that to take up residence, rather than
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I have to constantly be doing all the time and making things
Mm-hmm.
happen, and being in that active productive mode.
Mm-hmm. I think surrendering to me is not only about releasing, but also just be able to take rest for yourself, for ourselves.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And um, and also trusting that even it seems like there's not much going on the surface, like we're not as active as before, but underneath there is magic brewing. There
Mm,
is, profound growth heading our way, and there's healing. So, the changes, improvement, it doesn't have to always show and, be perceived by our mind, but it can show up in other way. It may not make sense to our conscious mind, but it's still happening. And
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
ancestors are all rooting us. So I think that's also something that I learned through just working with the deck and ancestral work. And it just made me feel a lot more at ease nowadays, that I don't have to actively force something to happen and have to interfere a process to manipulate certain outcome.
Yes. Mhm.
And I'm just so much happier and lighter. And I also find myself becoming like more welcoming as well. Um, yeah, that's definitely a big shift for me for the past 3 months. And this idea, I think I read somewhere this idea of human doing versus human being.
Mhm.
All our system, our years of experience, we've been trained like this machine of working, of doing. Um, but why are we called human being?
Right.
All this work we're doing right now, it's calling us to remember how to be.
100%. Mimi had us write down, and this is what a part of the mentorship program that I loved. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal to start with, but then now, 4 months later, I realized the power in it. But she asked us to write down 5 words that defined our values in the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning before we even started the mentorship program. And then I guess week 13, yeah, around week 13, she had us write our 5 values down again, 5 words. And they could have been the same and they could have changed. But I'd love for us to share the words that we started with and then the words that we have ended this earth module with. And these are, going to be constantly changing as we grow as well. But I found that practice and that exercise was incredibly profound for me. So, what were the 5 words that you started with and that you finished the Earth module with?
So my 5 words that I started with were trust, integrity, daring, beauty, and unconventionality. And I have to say, I cheated a little bit on this end because these words were given to me by my spirit guides through one of the readings that Mimi did for me.
Oh,
It
wow.
was this precise exactly because my Instagram business name is House of Five. So it just turned out to be 5 values that they think will be really, really important
Oh,
when I
amazing.
cultivate my practice. So that's why I said I kind of cheat a little bit. Um, but I did think about it a lot. Um, what each individual word mean to me, and I feel that there is still a lot of space to be explored. So with my new values, I wanted to take a step back. I think, the first step will always kind of be my values when I think about how to cultivate my practice. But these values are what's resonating with me deeply right now. And they are joy, beauty, curiosity, honesty, and unconventionality. And
Wow.
so I think it's really when I say joy, beauty, curiosity, for me it's very childlike. And um, there's movement when you are just being playful, and joy is being able to appreciate the beauty around you in nature, in people, and just let curiosity lead you to where you want to be. I may not be able to figure out everything that's happening right now in front of me. I probably never will, but this curiosity without, um, judgment. It's so important. It's not something that um, I have really appreciated in the past.
Mm,
I feel like I'm always looking at a solution and trying to find a strategy. But I
yeah,
can't remember
totally.
when was the last time that I was being curious. Probably the time that I signed up for the readings with Mimi. And for me, honesty, I think, is the first step of trust. I have to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with myself, with my feelings, with my fears, self limiting beliefs, and also being honest with my relationship with others too. What do I need? Right? Sometimes we always take care of what other people need. We put other people's needs first. But, I also want to take up some space for myself moving forward. So honesty also includes sort of this boundary piece. What do you want? What do you really want? And what do you not want? Um, and I think the last word, unconventionality, it's present in both times. It's because I am accepting my intuitive gifts. And even though, maybe in my immediate circle, my friends don't really understand what I'm particularly doing. What does this magic mean? And I used to feel the need to, look up on the internet what the definition is for, shamanic healing or Reiki and trying to explain to people to make myself understood. Um, I'm now taking a step back and saying, it doesn't have to all make sense. And I have these gifts. I don't know where I'm going with them, but this is how I'm able to serve right now. So I'm going to use my gifts and serve in any way I can. And, maybe all my offerings, they're experimental because, yeah, I'm not trying to reach a certain goal. I enjoy the process of experimenting, the process of creativity that comes with my relationship with me and, the client who need my help. So I think it's about acceptance as well, for me, for these 5 words.
I love seeing the shift there and just how it's like in the simple practice of just 5 words and really identifying what it is that you stand for. I just feel like um, for myself, I it's almost kind of like the mirror that I was looking at myself through became a little bit more clear. It's almost like I rubbed off a layer of dust and like between the first set of 5 words and the second set of 5 words. And my first set, it's not that I don't um, value them anymore, but it's almost like the emphasis has shifted a little bit. So my
Mm-hmm.
first set was authenticity, curiosity, compassion, consciousness, and evolution. And all of these together, what I realized, I think, in looking back at them, these are qualities that I want to embody because I want others to embody them as well. And that was where I think my motivation or intention was coming from. Because
Mm-hmm.
as a breathwork coach or a guide or somebody who's kind of in the healing space, I was realizing these are the values that I want to cultivate through my work. I
Yeah.
want that authenticity, right? I want that truth and that honesty in people. I want them to get curious about what it is, who they are, remembering who they are, and wanting to dig in and find out. I want to develop compassion, right? Both in myself and around, like, we just need more compassion around the world. That is truly what brings about connection. Consciousness is, is kind of, to me, a no-brainer. Like, as we do all these things, as we heal, we grow more conscious and we expand our consciousness. And evolution being the constant change and accepting that everything is constantly changing, and wanting that, that deepening and that constant changing and that constant evolution.
Mm-hmm.
But as I went through this process again 13 weeks later, my words suddenly shifted to become much more self-focused. And I think that's really the big takeaway for me. So my values now are self-acceptance, expansion, connection, sovereignty, and patience. And I think, especially what I've been working through, the challenges and shadows I've been working through recently, a lot of self-judgment has been coming through. And I'm now starting to realize, like, when I first started the mystery mentorship, it was like my intention was to learn as much as I possibly could so that I can integrate the learning and the new wisdom into my work and how I serve, how I show up in the world. But now I think my focus has become just, how do I grow and deepen as a being on my own without looking outward to anybody else, but really focus on just my own personal growth, my own personal expansion, my own self-love and acceptance, how I connect to myself, how I connect to others almost becomes a byproduct of how I connect to myself. My
Mm-hmm.
sense of sovereignty, right? My sense of, like, power and purpose, and the fact that I have the ability to heal myself. Like, I have the ability to make the right choices for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
and then to also, like, most of all, I feel like, is to have the patience and to recognize that timing is divine and that everything happens in the right and proper time, and not to be in such a rush all the time. I think that has been a huge shadow, this impatience and this need to, like, get there, or like be higher, or be somewhere else, or be more evolved, or and it's my old shadows of um, being in the rat race and the corporate mentality of survival and competition and separation that was, like, starting to come into even my spiritual practice. And it was
Mm-hmm.
this insistence of, like, I got to learn all the things so fast. I got to learn and do and, improve. And it was all so goal oriented. And I'm starting to see myself in a much more clear way, where it's like, okay, I need this time of patience and allowing, and again, being in receiving mode and going slower, and not being in doing mode, but simply just allowing things to manifest when they are meant to manifest, and allowing myself to integrate this knowledge. The integration wasn't happening before. And I think when I set out my values the first time, it was a lot of focus on, again, the doing and, like, the wanting to show up in a certain way so that I can help other people. It was so much more of an external focus. And now
Mm-hmm.
the values now are so much more internally focused. And that was a big shift for me.
I think everything you said resonate with me very deeply. And maybe it's because we're both Leo. And I totally understand. Oftentimes it's like, I got a list full of stuff, full of goals, and full of things to do. It's like I have to make sure I check off every single thing on the list. Otherwise, I'm going to miss something. And that's where anxiety really comes from, and it really grows and just attract more anxiety to come in. And so
Yeah.
that also the patient piece is extremely important, but sometimes it's just hard to cope because it shows up in your body, that fieriness, like that short breath almost.
Yeah.
And it's in the moment, it's really hard to be able to stay calm and have a clear picture of what's actually going on. And if I may just talk a little bit more about the word joy, and perhaps give an example of what I think my healing will look like in relationship to the watercolor painting that I've showed you. Um,
Yes.
and if I may, I'm just for our audience to have sort of visualization, I'm going to read the excerpt from Mimi's shamanic narrative for that particular journey we did, and how this scene showed up. So I quote Mimi's words. We arrived to another natural area where there are grasses, rocks on the ground, and trees and mountains in the distance. There's a tall tree near me. It's rather a tall pine. On the very top of the pine stands you. You don't see us, but you're wearing a happy looking yellow dress, and you're sitting on the top of the tree, Dr. Seuss style. You have a jar of stars, and you're scattering stars onto the ground like one would scatter birdseed. As you do this, you're smiling, laughing, and being generally playful and lighthearted. There is so much joy radiating as you do this. On the ground, some animals come to the stars, scattered like confetti. Some turn into flowers. Some stars take flight and lift themselves to the sky. And yet, some are picked up by people that are part of your greater family, and they lift them up and place it in their hearts. The sky and everywhere around you are filled with diamond-like stars.
That's so beautiful.
And I literally cried when I read this the first time, and a few other times as well. And every time I tune into that picture, I can instantly hear just giggles, this contagious laugh, this happiness, this just a purity of child. And Mimi further explained to me that pine on the metaphysical level calls us to remember and restore our worth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the stars are symbols of health, success, and visibility. So she interpreted this as me sitting on the pine as a calling for me to remember, to restore, to practice acts of self worth. And by doing so, healing will come through, through play and joy. And that as I step into more of the joy, I will bring more health, success, and visibility to others, including my ancestors. So I have the opportunity to reverse the generational wounds, all the suffering, by me stepping into this power of practicing self-worth and joy. And so I think when you mentioned to me about, taking care of yourself and understanding how important self-care is, that will allow you to deepen your connection in this practice and deepen other relationship in the physical world. And that's really the way to healing. and how we're going to break the chain to rewrite our ancestral story and to rewrite the future, so our future generation hopefully don't need to suffer.
Wow, that is so incredibly powerful. We are going to post this like beautiful painting. Your father did this, correct?
Yes, my father is an artist, so I
Ah,
asked him.
so beautiful.
And Mimi also said that, my intuition really comes from my father's lineage. And it's just so incredible that I didn't have to explain much to my father. I didn't even, read him these words. And I just said, can you just draw a painting of a little girl standing on a tree? And what he ended up painting, when I saw it, I was like, wow, how did you know? Like, this describes the essence of the reading and the words I just shared, and it was incredible how he was able to paint this painting spot on. And yeah, and I when I tune into this watercolor piece every single day, when I look at them, I just feel my ancestors are smiling at me, and it's very, very touching.
What a gift, both the reading and to be able to share this with your father in this way too. Like that to me is, I feel like there was healing right there also when you asked him to paint this for you, you know? Almost a transfer of that reading or the energy. I think that's beautiful. It's like it's hitting me on an emotional level right now. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So what are you excited about learning next? What are you most excited about digging into? Because I feel like there's been so much um, wisdom that I feel like has been gained just even in the short time that we've both been in this program. But I'm curious, what for you are you more excited to dig into?
I think definitely more practice. Um, and I think I'm not, again, looking for certain learning outcomes. Um, I just want to continue to be in this mode of receiving and acceptance. Um, but, practice is also, I think, it's an act of actively healing, because I have so much fear of showing up before. And signing up for practice and reaching out to other peers in the program allows me to have that opportunity to show up fully as my authentic self and to share my gifts and also to learn from each other. Um, and every single practice I have done, it's been so profound. There's so much knowledge and wisdom that we each have. Um, so that is what I'm really excited about, to have more conversation, have more practices, more integration period, and just to see more of the magic and to really hold on to that curiosity and joy and celebrate each small wins, each step that I take. Um, and also integrating that into my offerings so I can be of service to others, to be able to reach more people who need me in the community, whether it's with me locally or far away.
I think, I mean, I know that you are incredibly intuitive and that you are already a beautiful and like open healer in this community, and I'm excited to see what this next phase, I guess, for lack of a better word, will kind of bring into your life. I love the fact that in addition to this mystery mentorship, also have a group that you do shamanic journeying with. And to me, the part that has fascinated me the most is the journeying, you know, being able to connect to these animal and plant spirit allies and gain wisdom and perspective from them in these journeys. It's been so profound, and it's also been the most challenging thing for me to like let go and you know just believe that what I am seeing and what I'm experiencing is actually happening. It's real wisdom being passed through. And I think that that leap, being able to connect to that and to put my skepticism on the table, like leave it behind and just open up to receive openly, has
Mhm.
been such a huge, that it's like a door is starting to open, and I'm not fully all the way through yet, but I'm excited to practice that more. And I'm also just really honored and grateful to be paired up with you, because the journeying has been such a key part of your personal practice. Um, and I'm curious what you have gained from this group that you have been doing the shamanic journeying with, and how that has sort
Mhm.
of supported you in your healing as well.
Definitely. I think when I'm still new to journeying, but when I first started, I think definitely there's a lot of internalized like self criticism and self doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I often ask myself, am I hallucinating? And and I'm also, because I get a lot of downloads when I go on a journey, and sometimes I'm not able to remember all of them when I come back. And I just feel like, oh, I'm missing out. They said something else, like I didn't bring them back. And even sometimes I fall asleep during the journey.
Me
I'm like,
too.
oh,
Me too.
and I get so frustrated at myself. I'm like, they have faith in me to go on this journey. I have this responsibility. Um, and I've also talked to Mimi about it, and she also mentioned to me that the sleeping is actually also a healing state. So there may be
Oh,
things
that's good to
I'm
know.
not yet being able to process. So spirits
Mm.
is actually helping us to process, sort of weaving into the subconscious. So when the time is right, we will be able to receive the wisdom. So that is really good to know.
Yeah, thank
um,
you for that.
and but I think journeying for me has always been so much fun because I often, I like daydreaming. And this is a way of daydreaming for me. Um, and it's so fun. I just get to travel to wherever. I don't get to travel a lot of places physically. That's one of my goal. But yeah, I'm able to travel sort of in this spiritual sense. And it's definitely been helping me developing imagination and also empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think what's so fun about journeying for each other is that um, I'm able to learn a lot more. Like, I'm able to not only learn from my guides and spirit allies, but also theirs. And sometimes maybe me and the person I'm journeying for have the same spirit ally being present, but the medicine for us can be completely different. So in a way, you're adding another perspective on the themes that we're hoping to explore in the particular journey. And also that sometimes when we do reading for ourselves or journey for ourselves, there are some things we are resisting. There are something on the physical plane that we are not accepting, we're denying, we're not able to receive, or we're not ready to do the work, or we know what we have to do, but we're procrastinating. And when other people journey for me, it's like, yeah, my spirit guides always call me out. And they always say, you know what you need to do, but maybe you're overthinking, you're not doing, you're not actively listening to your heart, and all these things. Like instantly when I get feedback, and I was like, yeah, that's so right. And when I read for others too, they would always tell me, oh, this is so incredible, like it really resonates, and tell me their backstory. And sometimes even I see maybe an object and they have that object at home or even with them, and not just not really seeking for external validation. I think we are, like I still am. When
Yeah,
doing practice, you still want to hear that, oh, other people will say this really resonate. But I
totally.
just tell myself, like, this cannot be made up. I see with my own eyes, like on the journey. And we confirm for each other, and some of the stories we share and the object we hold, it's just incredible. So it must be true.
Yeah, a hundred
And so
percent.
that also allows me to just not to worry too much and be in this receiving and acceptance mode. And even maybe sometimes I go on journey, I only get a few words. Sometimes it's an essay of things, but just enjoy the experience. Enjoy the time and space that we hold for each other.
Thank you for that reminder. I think that I needed to hear that. And you're absolutely right. I think when you've kind of, like myself, I've been very much in my intellectual mind my whole adult life. And I know that there's a lot of imagination in there, which is what led me to a creative field in my career, but it's almost been stifled by a lot of the overactive ego mind and intellectual mind. And so this practice of journeying has really allowed me to, kind of put a little bit of a pause in the intellectual and just really go deep into that intuitive space, um, and into that feeling space. Um, the, I guess you would call it, well, maybe not the subconscious, but I guess sometimes subconscious too, because I definitely feel like things come up that my rational mind is questioning all the time. And like you, I feel like when I first started, there was a lot of questioning and a lot of skepticism. And I when I first met my key spirit ally, which is this beautiful red parrot, and my psychopomp, which is this big sea turtle, I was, again, in my mind, I was like, okay, it's the first time meeting you guys. Almost kind of like there's a little awkwardness in a first meeting, like you would
Mm.
a person. and
Yes,
and then
definitely.
and there's like that skepticism there too. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go with this. I'm like talking to a red parrot right now, or a sea turtle. And then I remember later that day after the journey, I was looking for a rattle online, and I happened upon this one site. I think it was an Etsy store, and I was looking for this rattle, and this one really stood out to me that I wanted to get from Peru. And so I clicked on it, and I was looking at it, and I was pretty like 99% sure that I was going to buy it. And I couldn't really see the carvings on this rattle. It was like a gourd rattle, and so when I started looking into the photos of the carvings on the rattle, there was a parrot and a sea turtle on there. And that
That
was
is
my confirmation.
amazing.
I was like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, there's something, this cannot just be a coincidence, And I was like, okay, all right, this is a sign. Okay, I need a little bit of that external validation just for me to like let go a little bit more of the skepticism and just fall into it a little bit more. And that was like, the beginning of the journey when we first started doing it. And so, everyone a little bit more, I let go. But I'm so, again, grateful to know somebody who's connected to that part of the practice so much, because I feel like there's a lot that you can teach me about it. And just even in our practicing with each other, I feel like I am
I
learning
look
so
forward to
much.
more practice opportunities with you for sure, Ellen.
Yeah, same. Um, so you're the creator of House of Five, the Intuitive, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that before we wrap, and just give you an opportunity to let our listeners know where you can be reached and what your practice is all about, and what you're also hoping to do with House of Five, the Intuitive.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, I'm still in the process of figuring out
Mm-hmm,
what
mm-hmm.
my um, offerings will really be, because I do offer shamanic journeying and Reiki or intuitive readings as sort of separate offering. But what I'm really, really passionate about is going into intuitive coaching, or maybe counseling in the future. And what I feel really passionate about is working with all three modalities. So I really
Awesome.
like these deep dive sessions where I get to use all these tools, and I kind of relate to them a little bit differently. So like intuitive reading, it's more like it set up the framework of what we like to work on. And with shamanic journey, we're able to dive deeper, sometimes look at the root of the problem. Or being able to access some of the ancestral stories. So that will really, kind of looking at deeper down layers. What's the underlying story? What is the underlying question we need to ask ourselves? And with Reiki, for me, it is, based on what comes up with the reading and the shamanic journey, I'm able to focus more on the particular chakra that are related to the issue that come up, and to help energetically maybe move the blockages, so to create ways for my client to be able to initiate healing. So oftentimes when I do these deep dive session, they're experimental. So every session is different. That's why I love about it. Every
Yeah.
client, it doesn't matter if it's with every client or different clients, we sit down, do a little bit check in to see where the client is at, and I'm able to really use my creativity and knowledge to be able to give some options for the client to choose how we can navigate the session together. So that's so much fun for me, and does take a lot of time and energy to do each session, but I really, really enjoy the process. And also the reason why I said intuitive counseling or coaching practices, because as I mentioned, healing is, to me, a discipline. You need to do your work. We all need to do our work for ourselves. And so, having these readings done is great. It's super helpful to bring insights. But oftentimes, if we don't take action afterwards, we tend to forget. This happened to me for many, many years. I would get some readings done, when I'm worried about something, I would go in and have a tarot reading done or go see a psychic. And in the moment, you have this epiphany, aha moments. They're like, yeah, that's great. But, I didn't really take action afterwards. So when the same kind of issues show up in different areas, I go in to do another reading. But I realize I'm giving away my power. I'm not learning about decision making. I was just there, again, seeking confirmation, hoping to hear the things I want to hear. So, by me offering these offerings, I love to hear clients say, this really resonate, but I don't just want to stop there. I want to know, how are you going to work with these information? Is there anything else I can help you to figure out small steps where I can also hold you accountable to achieve all these mini milestones so you can learn for yourself who you are, what you want, and how do you get there. And so that's why I started thinking about how can I make that happen. And I came across this life coaching program by Journey. So I'm in this program I started last month. It's an incredible community. So I'm going to, eventually incorporating life coaching into my practice. Again, I don't know what it's going to look like, but this is my goal. This is what I'm working towards, and this is my intention. So if any of the audiences are interested to have a chat with me, my Instagram business handle is House of Five Intuitive. It's a bit long and the spelling is a little bit different, so I'm going to just spell it out. It's House, Haus of OF 5 FIVE Intuitive, which is YINTUITIVE. So you can reach me at House of Five Intuitive, and I have my email there, so we can have a chat.
Amazing. I cannot wait to see how your practice blossoms and, develops and evolves. I love everything that you're doing. And I really believe it's a really strong offering to combine everything that, this is what makes you you. This is what makes you unique. And I feel like, I don't know, it's an amazing offering. And it's definitely not a coincidence that you are being called to all these different types of modalities, because I think with the coaching aspect of it too, it's going to be so powerful to bring the journeying in with the coaching. And I cannot wait to see what happens. I'll be definitely on the sidelines, like cheering you on.
Thank you so much, Ellen. That means a lot to me. And it's actually, the first time I publicly verbalize this ideas I have, because I struggled with my identity. I struggled. Like, I don't feel like I want to call myself just a tarot reader, just a Reiki practitioner, just, someone who can do shamanic journeying. And and for the longest time, I have this thought, if I say that I'm going to have these experimental sessions, what will other people think of me? Like, will they think my services are not going to be consistent? What does that mean? And also just, I also compare myself with other amazing healers and light workers who are there. So it means a lot to me to be able to say this today openly, and just letting the world know my intention, my calling, what I'm passionate about. It's a huge step for me in showing up. So thank you so much, Ellen.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's out. It's in the universe. The energy's out. It's going to happen. I'm grateful to be a part of that too. I think this is really beautiful to witness.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being so open and honest to have this conversation today. And I feel like every time we talk or meet up, I always learn so much. And I'm really grateful that Mimi put us together. I don't even know if she knew that we were both Leos and we struggle with the same things. And I don't
I
know.
think she
It's funny to
knew.
me.
She knew.
She must have,
Yeah,
But it's so
yeah,
funny. I'm like, wow, there's so much in common here that I did not even realize even in our first two meetings with the reading and the journey. So I'm
yeah.
grateful to you.
I am so honored to witness your work as well and your growth and how you're showing up every single day. It's amazing. And you're showing up for the unseen, you are taking care of yourself. Um, that just allows me to continue to have space to dream. And I
Mhm,
think,
mhm.
to end this session, I mentioned that I wanted to share a quote with you
Yes.
and the audiences that are listening. I think it's when I read this quote, it really speak to my heart space where I'm at now. So this quote is from an oracle deck that I'm working with. It's called a Manti Oracle Feather Heart deck, and it's one of the things they talk about in the guidebook. So the quote is, "Although we live, we shall also die. As we awake, so we shall dream."
So beautiful.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Oh, it's a perfect way to end.
I just want to send out a huge thank you to all of our listeners for following us here on Woo Nu, following our journeys, and just being a part of it. Sam and I started this podcast just about a year ago, and we are vastly different people than who we were back then. And this project has been its own sort of journey for us. And we're just so grateful to be able to speak to all these amazing therapists and healers and share our own exploration, our own self-discovery, and our own healing journeys with you guys. We are beyond grateful. And since we have been going nonstop for a while now, since January, we're going to take a bit of a breather to focus on some of our other projects and also to start planning for the fall season of Woo Nu. So we'll be back in the fall with more episodes that will help all of us expand our consciousness and shift our perspectives. Thank you again for your support. We wouldn't be here without you. And we're just so grateful to be doing this work. It's an honor. Music for Woo Nu is composed by Adam Miller.